Hello and good evening. Welcome to Open Mic UK. Yes, what was I gonna say? Today we don't have actually a guest. The special guests are us, myself and Suzi. Suzi, welcome. Actually, Suzi is part of the show, so she doesn't need introduction or welcoming. But
Hi, Ramzi.
just
Good to see you.
you too. I know you've had a bit of some physical setback recently, and you didn't make it to our show last week. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about
Yeah.
spirit today. So let's pick a topic and start with that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Like, we have all these plans and ideas and things scheduled, and then they just aren't meant to be, or, there's a bit of a workaround. And I've really learned, I think, to trust in that process. Yeah, I was sorry that I missed the last episode of Open Mic. But as you know, I was on holidays and I fell and I did a lot of damage to my elbow. So I've been working on that. But yeah, we've been talking in the past week or so about the work and the evolution of the Spirit Cafe. And I think that's been a really interesting thing now that I've been sitting here nursing my wounds, um, feeling and connecting with that evolution of the Spirit Cafe, like where we started out in probably last October, November when we were talking about it originally, and then getting it started in, I think, January. And yeah, what's your feeling about that, Ramzi?
You know, we didn't know where we're going with that, and what do you call it? Um, it had a life on its own, spirit on its own, created it and did it. And I remember we were sitting one time and you were creating the website, and I go, "Oh my God!" If you recall, there was a guide with you that helped facilitate the design and the verbiage on our website. It's been an interesting journey. Just say hello to our missing co-host, Kathy. Hey,
Hey,
Kathy,
Kathy,
we
miss
miss
you.
you.
We said it together. And hi to Tanita and whoever else is out there. I see a few other names coming up.
Yeah, we have two right now that are engaged. So yeah, it was interesting how everything kind of moved into the direction that it is in. And every time we meet, which was it's a 10 session once a month, almost starting from February. Every time we meet, everything gets downloaded 10-15 minutes before the program starts,
Hmm.
and then it takes a life on its own.
Yeah,
Remember, like last time with those pictures, it was amazing. We went from it's supposed to be 2 hours. I think we stayed for 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
How
so.
many?
Yeah. And like even how that session came about, I remember connecting with Kathy. Well, we connected a couple of weeks beforehand and we started to see this kind of pictures and photographs. And again, we weren't quite sure how that was going to format itself or formulate. And like you said, it all we went on another call together just before and it started to become clearer and clearer the more we were closer we were getting to the time. And so we did send out that email to everybody who was joining us to send in a photo of a loved one in spirit. And like I was flabbergasted. And even though we were an hour over with that extra hour, it's like we were in a different time space because it didn't feel like that. Like, because we just kind of went into beyond space and time when we were really with those pictures at times, I felt. It was really quite profound, the information that came through and the consistency that
Yeah.
everybody, you know, because obviously nobody had, like many of them have never done this before. And then you could see this incredible kind of consistency and these synchronicities occurring.
Also, it went from a mediumship training into a healing journey and an evolution for, well, in my view, and I can't speak for everyone, but I saw a change. I saw growth. I saw uh, an openness and consciousness
Mm.
that I didn't have a year ago. I feel that it's the same with everyone else. I think this journey was not only profound on me. I think it was profound on everyone that attended it, even the ones that weren't at every class. Even if they attended one session, that session was meant to be for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know, like the whale thing. Remember?
Yeah.
That was amazing. Edie and sorry, I shouldn't be mentioning names. Sorry, but it got connected by 4 or 5 people
Mm.
and brought in actually what do you call it? It brought in a consciousness to help the whales. We all held space to help out. There was a whale stuck. I can't remember the whole story. I don't remember anything actually, because when I go into one of those sessions, I kind of out of my mind.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
I'm
it's
not physically
details you,
thinking.
yeah, generally you're not going to keep the details in your mind, like, because it's kind of you're connecting to like a flow of information, and I think it flows through. So it
Mhm.
sort of like comes in one ear, it comes out the other, and it's in that sort of flow space. But I think what becomes very evident is when you have a group of people, how that
Mhm.
flow is moving through each individual, and then when each person is sharing their evidence or the information that they're getting, how it all starts to become more coherent. It's like each person has a piece of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I remember sometimes, especially that whale session, I was like, what is going on here? Where are we going? Like, because no one's controlling anything. Everybody is just willing to show up in that moment. And then afterwards, I usually walk away and I'm like, wow, I could have made that up if I tried. And that's when I know that we're definitely onto something from the, let's call it the other side, or the realm of spirit, or the non-local domain, however you want to phrase that.
Non-local domain. I love it. I love it. We should keep that non-local domain because it pulls away from the. Okay, there's still a negative connotation towards mediumship and spirit mediumship. People are just a bit hesitant to engage in it due to preconceived ideas about it.
Yeah,
And most of that comes from Hollywood, basically.
that's it. I was a thoroughbred skeptic myself. I had all of that resistance in me, because I had all this kind of inherited kind of conditioning around what it was, what it wasn't, purely out of total ignorance, really, and fear.
Mhm.
And so when I went in to explore it in more detail in the training that we did, I realized this is a natural state of being. Actually, there's no doing. You're just in a state of being and a state of presence and acceptance, and maybe a bit of allowing. And then when you open that little channel, that invitation comes in, with whatever the request is or whoever you're sitting with, and whether it's evidence of a loved one in spirit, or whether it's a more psychic kind of engagement, information is there. And really learning how to kind of get over yourself. It's not about me at all. I think that was my big learning curve. And when I realized kind of the healing implications of it, I stopped
Mhm.
resisting it, because I didn't I think I had a preconceived idea that people were doing it to take advantage of people or to trick them or to make money out of people's grief. I had issues around that, but what I really learned is, wow, when you sit with somebody who's really in a state of grief or, you know, having suffered a major loss, and then you connect with a loved one of theirs in spirit, how it organizes a sort of a healing um, presence in the other person. Like there's a receptivity
Mhm.
in the sitter that opens another part of them to receive that information, because it's not relevant for me or you if we're reading, but it's very relevant for them or their loved ones or their story. And that in itself is the part that's healing. It's, I
Mhm.
think, that evidence of presence, that there is somebody, there is consciousness goes on beyond death, like beyond the physical body. There is an information and intelligence or consciousness that lives on the other side or in the non-local domain. I don't know. There's so many
Yeah,
different words, you know.
yeah. It's comforting for some people that that exists, and also the messages that are coming from the other side are helping them overcome their own obstacles on the journey they're on or their own grief.
Yeah,
I find it fascinating, especially during the last session that we had with all these pictures. It was incredible the amount of healing that took place on that night, yeah, your night.
yeah,
Yeah, it was incredible. Like everyone got something. Even I didn't put a picture because I was kind of moderating or holding the space, but I got something out of it too.
yeah.
I was affected indirectly with everything that was going on in that session.
Yeah, so it's not just for each individual who submitted a photograph, it's for the group as a collective as well. And
Yes.
and beyond that, I suppose, whatever is affecting you is going to affect other people connected to you and so on. And I know for me that day, I know we didn't get to talk about this much, but I had no intention of putting a photograph in. Like, we had never discussed that any of us were going to do that because we'd enough
Mhm.
people coming, and there wouldn't have been, we knew there wouldn't be time. But that morning when I was doing my own regular meditation practice, oh, I just had like the photograph of the person just came in, and I didn't even know what her name was, or like the photo was familiar to me. I had seen it in a book, but I had no references for this person. You know, I'm not directly related to the person. But it was like in my meditation, it was like, I'm coming in today. And I was like, sorry, no, you're not, you know, and energetically, I was like, no, 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 that's not happening now today. Cause, you know, the way my left brain is like trying to manage and organize, you know, the logistics of what we're doing and manage the timekeeping and whatever. And then she was very persistent. I was like, wow, she will not go away. So I said, look, and I went to the book downstairs. I checked it. I was like, oh, that's her name. Okay. And I got her photograph and I sent it to Kathy and I said, look, if there's time at the end, we'll have a look at this because she's very persistent. And I just thought it was so funny. I nearly fell off my chair at the beginning of the session when hers was the first picture to come up. And I was like,
Yeah.
and Kathy was like, she didn't realize that, she thought it was somebody else's picture because she'd mixed them all up because so that we wouldn't, you know, give anything away about whose was whose or whatever. And then suddenly we all lost track of time, and like 10 minutes in, everyone's tuned into this person, and I was like, I cannot believe she's having this much, you know, input in our session. So
Mhm.
that was really interesting for me, like how much resistance I was feeling about like that. I had like I basically realized, gosh, I have absolutely zero control over what's going on here. And everybody was very consistent with their information about her when they connected. But And I couldn't validate much of it because I don't know enough information about her. But I did, over the following couple of weeks on my travels, get to go to where
Mm,
this person was born and where she lived and where she would have died, and where her whole life took place. And my gosh, she really made me aware when I was there. There were so many signs and synchronicities that you know my other family members who were there were like, "What?" They're not into this at all. I was like, "Wow." So, for me, that was phenomenal. For me personally, anyway, I was like, "Wow, I do not control anything." Like, she was not being relegated to the end of the show or to the end of the session, let's say.
yeah.
Um, but that brings me to asking you a question, because I've been working kind of energetically with this family member. Let's say it's not related to me directly, but I've said, you know what, you're making yourself really well known to me. So I felt she's quite a powerful force and spirit, and I've been putting her in charge of some things, that I'm like, that I think might help out. So I'm like, hey, could you assist with the untangling of some of the stuff that's going on in the ancestral line, because I think there's a lot of entanglement has happened over lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes as all the generations go through. And I
Mm.
reckon that the loved ones in spirit can go back in and do some of that untangling. Though that's my made up belief anyway.
Well, uh, my made up belief is it's not a made up. I truly believe that is true. The ancestors come to work with you to untangle certain issues, to heal the past in the present.
Mm,
And I feel like, for example, with me, when my father passed away, after a while he came over and he'd like to participate and assist and be part of a team. So I truly believe that that's what happens. It's not only for myself, it's for the lineage itself
mm.
to resolve whatever has been stuck, to unstuck it and move forward with it.
Yeah. I think I have had similar sort of experiences to you in that respect. And what's interesting for me now is today is the first day of Navaratri, if you're following from the kind of more Hindu tradition in India. And Navaratri is a 9-day, I suppose, where people will fast and make offerings for the feminine goddess Durga in all the different forms that she comes in. So it goes from the more kind of, dynamic to the more subtle, let's say. So it changes every 3 days, kind of how the colors, the type of offerings and things like that. And I know from a retreat we did last year that the preparation for this Navaratri was doing some work on the ancestral line. So, in some traditions, like at this time of year, like for the week leading into Navaratri, for example, in India, there's some work being done. There's somebody in the family making offerings and working with the loved ones in spirit. And I'm wondering, this is a thought that came to me today. Is that part of what the work in the Spirit Cafe can be? Doing some of this kind of, when you make the connections to the loved ones in spirit from different generations, is it doing some of that preparatory work, like for the people who are living right here, right now? And maybe traditionally there was always somebody doing some of this work, like making these connections and tuning in and clearing.
I believe they've been around for a long time. These things didn't just pop in 2024. I believe this been happening for a long time now. In the olden days, uh, everybody believed in angels, guardian angels, and so on, and they're protecting you, they're helping you, and so on. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
the same thing. We just shifted our consciousness to, not shifted our consciousness, because we started to do more of these of the work and connecting with spirit. We're able to get more information from them to understand who's there and what the mission is, rather than just believing that there's a guardian angel that's going to hold your hand while you're crossing the street to make sure that you're safe, for example. That's how it used to be in the old days.
Yeah.
At least that's how I remember it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and well, I think in different traditions it varies. Like I think in Mexico, for example, I have some friends in Mexico and they were telling me different traditions in their culture, for honoring the dead. They have the Day of the Dead and they really make all the offerings and they just I think there has to be that point of the every year where you're acknowledging your loved one. And some people do it here on the anniversary of the death or on the birthday of the person or, something that's significant. It could be Christmas or some other time of the year, Mother's Day. Sometimes people really all go to the graves here and honor their mums or dads who have passed. So there's different traditions around the world, I think. And I think mediumship, as it's changing, is becoming more, would you say, mainstream? Like I was watching Netflix the other night and I saw that guy, the guy in, I think he's in California. Is he in LA? Or I'm just making an assumption there that he's in California, but the medium, the young guy, he's got the Netflix show. Tyler, I
Yeah,
think his name is Tyler
right, right.
Henry. Yeah, yeah. And I was watching him on Netflix because he's got it's out every Tuesday, I think.
Mhm.
And he's got it on the sofa. He's got like usually like a celebrity and then some of their family and friends. And he's doing these kind of multiple readings for the 4 or 5 people on the sofa. And it's really interesting to watch how he's working and how the information's coming to him. It comes to him in advance of the show as well. And they bring some people bring little like mementos. It could be a photograph of the loved one or a piece of jewelry or just something that reminds them of them, crystal. And he might use either the object or just he's getting very clear messages. And what is really evident at the end of that show when you watch it through is the sense of relief that everybody sitting on the sofa is having. Like it's such a sense of relief for them. It's like the part of them that really was struggling with, what's happening now that to my loved one, now that they're no longer here in this physical form. So would you find that when you do readings for people? What's your sort of sense of that? Or when people read for you?
Uh, when I read for people, there's always a closure.
Mm,
They feel that they're missing something. We didn't say goodbye, or we didn't, and that's not everybody, but a lot of people that had that. Or there's a sudden death that wasn't expected. And
mm,
that drags people into a really dark space that they sit in for a long time, and they're not sure how to overcome that because it was sudden. So when I connect them, it kind of brings certain uh, points to a closure. It doesn't mean that they heal immediately and everything is fine, but at least they know that their loved one is in a good space. He's whatever he's doing, watching over them or helping them overcome that issue that they're facing. Sometimes, well, one time they wanted to know how it happened and who were around, and like they were curious because it was a it was a young man, it was a sudden thing, overdose, and they wanted to know. So we kind of went deeper into the images to see what's happening, how it happened. But I recall the message always came back. It doesn't matter.
mm.
It doesn't matter who was there or wasn't there. It doesn't matter what happened. What is happening now is for me being there with you.
Mm.
It's amazing how the information, like, and we're talking about people we don't know, right? So the information gets gathered from somewhere. It comes through us, and there are a lot of times where really it comes through us strong. Here it is. Work with me, and then you see your sitter starting to either cry or have some signs sense of relief and they should begin on their healing journey themselves, because it set them back, whatever had happened. I actually enjoy every moment of it when I do readings to people. I think you froze. Oh no, you're.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not. Sorry. I was just listening intently.
I saw that. I saw you were either somewhere else or in the spirit realm, or you're frozen. I couldn't figure it out. But another thing that mediumship had helped myself and others also is the trust in
Hmm.
our intuition. See, people think that mediumship or psychic mediumship is something that is it's a gift, it's a superpower, something that only you have, or you're good at it and I'm not. But I came to a realization that's not true.
Yeah.
We we all have it. We all have it. And not only that, we have it, we're so scared of it that we put it aside. We don't want to deal with it. We kind of like shut ourselves uh, from it, like literally push it aside to a point where we don't even see it anymore.
Hmm.
And then we look outside and say, oh, they have this power, I don't have it. But if you just remove yourself from the fear that you have, allow it to flow through, trust the information, then you'll see how things change. And it's very important. I keep on saying every time we get on the call somewhere, it's like trust, trust, trust. But trusting yourself is not only good for mediumship. Trusting yourself is good for everything that you do. It's
Yeah.
like everything that we do on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
if we start building the trust in ourselves with whatever we're doing, we start building the trust in the messages that we receive.
Yeah. I think the key is to know where the information's coming from, the difference between kind of
Yeah.
if the information's coming from your ego or from the more subtle realm of spirit, when intuition comes in. And like my intuitive voice is softly spoken, it's gentle. It will repeat itself. Like if I'm not paying attention, it'll repeat, but it doesn't start roaring at me. It's getting a gentle attention, and it's not kind of judging me at any level. It doesn't say you're a loser or you're, not paying listening to me, or or I told you so. It doesn't work like that. It's a very benevolent source of energy and information. Um, and the more I can kind of, like you said, trust and learn to quieten down my mind so that I can hear it, that's really where it has transformed for me personally. Like, I think before I learned how to trust and how to listen, I couldn't trust anything because if I believed everything I thought, I was doomed. Like, so, you know, I think working with our mind is really one of the key parts of what we do in Spirit Cafe, and what I do personally in my work, and you do in yours. It's because the mind is producing up to 80,000 thoughts a day,
Mhm.
and a lot of them are based on kind of repetitive actions, uh, past experiences, old memories, and things like that. So there's very little original thought happening in our day-to-day thinking. However, with the meditation practice, which is how I do it anyway, there's an opportunity to really shift from that pattern thinking to interrupt the pattern. And when we interrupt it, we break it. Like you're kind of cutting the chain of this kind of incessant, maybe like a monkey mind or whatever. And so you're using something to focus or to concentrate on as the object of your meditation. And you're just breaking down that pattern of kind of, thinking nonstop, like very repetitive, to slowing things right down. And almost then in that kind of more kind of meditative state, which we would call like the alpha kind of theta state, when the mind really gets quieter and still, you go into that stillness and silence. And so that's the preparation that really serves in mediumship, because the more my mind is trained in that facility or in that capacity, when I sit in mediumship, then I can bring that focus in. I can quieten it, and I can feel when some information's coming in. It's like, okay, this is coming from another field. It's not coming from the reservoir of old memories and impressions that are hanging out in the back of my mind, But sometimes it has to fish out something from my mind to help me kind of deliver the message, so to speak. So, I might pick up on my aunt or my, a relationship or something that I'm having, in order to relay the information that's coming through. But I think it varies as you develop, how you receive the information too, whether it's auditory or whether it's more, visual, or just more a knowing, or more kinesthetic. Or I remember thinking, when we were studying first, I was like, no, I never smell. I'd never, smell would be the least one that I'd have. It's the probably least common. And then a couple of weeks later, we were sitting for each other, and I was sitting for this lady, and I could just smell donut, and it was really weird because obviously the smell wasn't here, but I was like, what is this? Like, it's a really subtle sense of smell, and it's something really clear. Like, and I just spat it out, and I said it to her. I said, I don't know why I'm saying this, but donuts. And she just started laughing, And that was the piece of evidence that convinced that lady that the person I had in spirit was her niece. Because she said, oh my God, she came to all the family things with baked goods, So donuts represented baked goods in that message. So yeah, I love how we can train our mind, train our attention, and see how the information comes, and that evolves as we go through things too. I guess we're always evolving. Out of all of the readings you've had, Ramzi, like that you've been doing, what was one of the strongest kind of impressions that you got from somebody in spirit, like that kind of took you by surprise, let's say, using a different sense, or maybe how the message was delivered?
Well, I was in one of those circles, and somebody in England, she was my sitter, and I kept on saying, there's a stars, like you're looking at the stars, there's stars. And I go, I don't know what it is, but there's something with the sun, there's a telescope. And I started going on the telescope. I described the house of the person, their backyard, the telescope, because the lady didn't click when I said stars at the beginning. But it turns out that the person, the deceased, had a telescope, and he used to go on clear nights and watch the skies and stuff like that. And then when she remembered it, it was like kaboom,
Wow.
Yeah. There's also the sense of smell that I thought I would never have. Same thing. I smelled the firewood.
Ah.
It turns out they would do a fire pit outside, and they gather all together and stuff like that. So it was so strong, the smell.
Yeah.
And now more and more, I kind of, again, this is evolution over time. The more you use it, the more it's strengthened. with the I used to go with the smell, and now I do smell sometimes. It depends on the readings, but it evolved from pictorial or whatever it is that would come in visual into a combination of all in one.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
The knowing, allowing words to just flow.
Yeah.
And I think this is one important thing that I've learned, especially a couple of times that I've done readings, is that if I don't think about it, because of course your mind is always barricading these information. So if you just allow it to flow, you'll be saying things that you do not know what it is and why it's coming out. You have no
Yeah.
clue, but it's fascinating.
It is. It is really fascinating because you're not the doer.
No,
Ultimately, there's no doer of there's no part of you that's involved in the actual doing other than the willingness to sit and to be of service. I think that's the real thing that is required. You know, you do need to. But before I ever refined this capacity within myself, I was always getting kind of people coming in like asking me to give messages to people, and I used to be like, oh my, like it used to really bug me, and it used to really bother me, and sometimes I'd just be like, no, no, thank you, and try to just hope it would go away. And then I remember one time it was very persistent. So I while the person was talking, I really tuned in to see, okay, what am I getting here? Because it felt like a radio was kind of like a radio was trying to tune in my ear, and I had to really kind of sit back in my chair and listen carefully. This is good. This is about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, and I was like, okay, wow, okay, rightio. And I got really clear instructions. And then I was sitting there going, how do I deliver this piece of information without this person thinking that I've lost the plot? And, I just carefully kind of worded it, and I made it sound like I was suggesting it. I totally took the credit. I was like, hey, what about go to this place? And I gave the instructions as I got them. And I thought, phew, okay, dodge that bullet. Don't want to meet this person again, because I didn't know them that well. And of course, 2 days later, I run into them again. It was when I was in Los Angeles and I was in a hotel. I was doing one of my trainings, the yoga training, I think. And sure enough, the person saw me in the lobby and they were like, wait till I tell you what happened. You told me to do blah, 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 whatever it was. And I was like, yeah. And then there was more, and they just were like, oh, have you any more of that information? And I was like, oh, because I didn't even mention the word mediumship or messages or loved one in spirit. I was very far removed at that point about that. But so I do believe that when spirits really kind of, you know, trying to get your attention and impress something on you, they will go to great lengths, even if you're kind of saying, giving them the pushback, you know. Like in that innocent times when you're out shopping or you're just out doing something else, it's completely unrelated. Like, have you ever had to do that, Ramzi, where you had to kind of approach a stranger or somebody you didn't know that well and pass
Yeah.
something?
How was it? A crystal store in London.
Oh, I remember that story. Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go ask her. I go, "Are you okay?" And she was giving me this look, and it's like, "Who the hell are you?" Of course, who am I? I'm a stranger to her, and I go, "No, all I want to say is that whatever is bothering you now, it's gonna get better. Don't worry about it. This is just a phase. Like, things are gonna be good afterwards. Just don't stress on it because you're adding more to your issue." And I walked out. She ran after me. She ran after me. She goes, "Oh, thank you so much." I like she needed to hear it and she wanted to pay me for my. I go, "No, no, no, that's fine. It's just I couldn't control. I couldn't hold it back. I had to give it to you. The answer."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So.
it. That's it, isn't it? That's how it can work as well. So I think
Mhm.
what I learned, and I guess you did too, was like rather than go through life kind of resisting it and pushing back, what happens when you really allow it and you involve it and you welcome that? Is it a gift? Is it just? I think it's a natural part of who we are, and we're opening ourselves now to engage with it and to embrace it and to learn from it and to really, as you said, heal from it, through it, let's say. So I do feel like, we've been looking at this in the Spirit Cafe, like the really kind of redefining mediumship in a modern sense, you know,
Yeah,
and like that it's safe and it's okay and it's really part of who we all are. And I know that if I was a spirit and I wanted to get in touch with my family, I'd probably bug the living daylights out of anybody who was some sort of an open channel. I'd probably be knocking on everyone's door. Hey, let them know I'm here. So yeah, that's my feeling. It's like when we go towards it with joy as opposed to fear, or with kind of,
yeah,
love and compassion or healing, come from that other part of ourselves. Well, it's a completely different experience then.
absolutely. Like the experience that we both experienced, the journey to Avalon.
Yeah.
That wasn't us. So just to give it tell the viewers what we're talking about. We were preparing for a weekend retreat in London in
Mm.
November 2024. We're supposed to have a retreat. So we sat together and we wanted to plan it. I got a vision of where it was. Suzi was already knew where it's supposed to be, and she was resisting contacting the person until I brought the image into the picture. She was, "Oh, okay, now let's do it." And it's funny, it's within few seconds from sending that message, the reply came in, "Yeah, here it is. We'll be more than happy to host you." Uh, we pulled things together and we started to build up this event, but the event was already built in the spirit world. It was there.
Yeah.
It was there. And then we said, "Okay, let's talk with another person to get them in and see how many tickets we would have left to sell." And you spoke to that person, and that's it. It was
Like it's
all
cool.
so it sold out in 2 seconds
I
before
know.
booking the space.
Exactly. And that's never happened to me before. I've done a lot of retreats in a lot of the world and I've preliminarily kind of worked out dates, but like I
Yeah,
haven't followed through on the booking till I actually, know that people have committed. And it was fully committed, like within a day or two, like, and like I felt like we hadn't finished our sentences or, exchanging emails with the venue and it was full. So yeah, like, you know, does are we, has that event already happened on some dimension? And are we just tapping into the thing when it's done already, or I don't think either of us can take any credit for any of it.
no,
All I know is
zero.
when I have the resistance, like that's the part that I notice. I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I'm having a lot of resistance to this because I'm like trying to slow down the wheels on the truck a little bit. I'm like, oh, putting on the brakes, and you were like, well, look, this is a clear vision that I have. You sent me the photograph, and I looked at it, and I just nearly fell off the chair because it's quite specific. It's a period farmhouse, like, it's not like an
Yeah.
average building, and it's about 500 years old, I think, or more, 500 or 600 years old. And wow, is the building calling us in? I don't know, but we're all going and we're fully booked and off we go to Avalon. And there's
That's
probably
great.
lots more to that, like, but I'm even we haven't had a chance to even look at it.
No, no, we haven't. But uh, see, slow the slower you move, the faster you get to your destination.
I like that.
This hit me 2 days ago. I was walking and I go, oh, interesting. Yeah, that's exactly what we need to do. Slow down. That's it.
Yeah,
Rush nothing. Absolutely nothing. Because look at it, the Spirit Cafe happened on its own.
it did. Like AI designed that website. I've been really working with AI recently. Since I've had my injury, I've been kind of playing with AI and asking it questions. Oh my gosh, it saves us so much time. Like it's quite phenomenal as a tool. And I feel like that's why we can slow down now because we don't have to do all of that heavy lifting or all of that back end work because computers can do that for us. So as soon as we start embracing technology, you know, we can be much slower in ourselves and not so intent and obsessive. Because even I could feel we were trying to get our dates for Spirit Cafe for October, and I was the one putting the pressure and saying, "Oh, we should do two in October," because we didn't get one done in September. And then when I took away my pressure from it, it just feels much more holistic now. It feels much more, oh yeah, it's back in the flow again. I feel like everybody's like, oh, thank God she took her foot off the gas there because she was trying to drive us over the cliff a little bit, because my mind wanted to, tick my list or my boxes like, okay, we've covered all of the things that, we're expected to do or, people would have signed up for or whatever. But then when we kind of took the pressure off and we chose the date, oh yeah, September 24th, that's our date. So the next beer cafe, now that I've slowed down, is September 24th or October 24th, should I say.
Mhm.
And that's what I really learned in the last couple of days too, that especially with healing, for example, I don't know, when I applied the old paradigm to healing. I used to think that, oh, if I just sit for the whole weekend, I can heal this whole thing and then I can get on with my life. And I kept kind of putting these kind of beliefs that if I get this done now, I'm done, I'll have done that, and then I get on with life. I kept kind of doing that to myself. And this is my fourth time injuring myself. I've had lots of practice. But this time I was like, okay, tuning into the injury, and I realized, you know what? I'm here to look at what this is connected to energetically, and it might cover a percentage of my, healing line or healing the ancestors line or whatever. But it doesn't all have to happen today or tomorrow. It'll take as long as it takes. And even when it completes this part, it doesn't mean that I'm done forever because that's our evolution. That's our life. Like it might be lifetimes and lifetimes of this, and this probably wasn't my first lifetime by the sounds of things. So I think interesting, this injury happened to me running. I was running towards something and I was really pushing and rushing myself. And that's been something that I've really had to listen to. What am I running? Why? What am I falling for here? What am I running into? And so I think there's a lot of opportunities like that. Well, I've discovered anyway in the tuning into where we've had an injury or where we have a blockage or where we might feel a challenge or something repeating itself. And I think the Spirit Cafe does something with that too, because the psychic work is very connected to that. Do you think?
Yeah. Yes. Since we started, like the connection that we have with each other was stronger.
Yeah.
For example, you fell. I saw you walking on the cobblestone street, and you're looking to the right, and I wasn't sure what it was about, and it turns out to be you're falling.
Mm.
You know, uh, it it what it does, it connects people at a higher level so that you can get information and pass them on.
Yeah.
And I think what's because you mentioned AI, what I find, or I think it's going to be intriguing, is that how Spirit is going to work with that tool to build
Yeah.
up on what we're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know,
I remember
it's
the
really,
day. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was just recalling on the day that we said, okay, well, Spirit Cafe seems to want to happen now, so what do we do now? And I said, well, there's a function here on a web designer, uh, a web creator, and like if you just put the words in, AI will create the website. I didn't hold a whole lot of kind of, that this was going to work in a way that you would work out as easy as it did. And I was fascinated. I was like, well, I'm fascinated by, Apple and Mac technology because I'm now on a call with somebody in a different country. We're on video and we're creating on another, application, like on another page, this whole website. And literally, like, couple of minutes and it appeared in front of us, and then I was able to share screens and show you. I was like, wow, look at that, there you go, that's Spirit Cafe website.
Hmm.
And I think previously all of those things would have taken so much time, you know to collaborate with people like Kathy and you and me and then all the other people that we work with. Those collaborations would have taken years to like establish a working relationship. And I think the technology has really, really, like since COVID, I think things have really accelerated
Yeah.
in the world of business and technology and online presence. Even this, what we're doing now, who would have thought?
No, it's it, okay. We all have resistance to new technologies. Anything new, we have resistance to. We don't like it. The old way is much better. But it really came to facilitate certain things and move things forward faster.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
were saying, is that this connection wouldn't have happened before.
no,
I would have to fly to Ireland and for us to sit together and have a call, or we would do it over the phone. And even at
yeah,
that, it's not the same. And now we get people from all around the world to sit with us on an
yeah,
open platform for others to share information with others. It's
yeah.
fascinating, and I truly believe that AI would be also part of the technology that Spirit would use
Hmm.
to help out facilitate the process that they have in place in order to get to the destination. Because each one
Yeah,
has a different destination.
yeah, I agree. Because I've heard of people in like older times, like where, well, older, probably the 80s, where they would get a sense of something happening on their TV screen. The TV screen
Yeah.
flickered or it switched on when it wasn't turned on, and they connected that they were getting a message from a loved one in spirit. Or I've heard of stories where people have said, oh, the lights flashed on and off, or light bulbs blew, or different kind of events happened like through their electricity or through a radio or television. So
Mhm.
I think spirit's been using whatever they can all through time. And I feel like now, and maybe in the past, you heard of things kind of moving and going bump in the night or whatever, moving chairs or moving furniture or whatever, glasses, whatever. I think spirit's moving with the technology too, with the time. And like you said, there's a like the fact that, I'm going back to the story about like our last session on Spirit Cafe when that ancestor just like she literally just charged in on the meditation. I was like, wow, already you got in the back door. Wasn't have closed it properly, I was like, wow. And I've had that a few times. I've had people like where spirit comes in such a a strong dominant sort of a like a force field without being forced, if that makes sense. But I've really felt that on a number of occasions. When we were at the Science and Consciousness conference last year, like, my God, I just kept connecting with Albert Einstein. And I was like, wow, what's this about? you know? And I still like sometimes this stuff makes no sense whatsoever. But I just make notes and I allow it to see how it informs us in some way. So, if Albert Einstein can charge in, or the relative a couple of weeks ago, and I've had Joan of Arc, I've had some really interesting ones. I'm like, well, if they can get through to me, they can definitely get through to an iPhone or a Mac or through AI, and maybe we'll set up this kind of a dialogue, where we a Q&A, maybe. I don't know. I'm just playing with it, like.
Well, I don't know if I've done a reading with you. Oh, when we're talking about something on Zoom, I
Yeah.
find Zoom is really taken over by spirit, because I use it for all the readings that I do, and all of a sudden a thumb comes up, or a heart comes up, or some other emoji that just on its own, not touching the, but at an exact moment where it requires it. And then the spirit goes, "Did you do that?" "No, I did not. It just happened."
Yeah.
So they do use whatever is easy to access at certain times. And yeah, phones and lights and stuff like that. So, and I see AI being a helpful tool
Mm-hmm.
to bridge between the two worlds.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I think for maybe part of our next session on Spirit Cafe, which, as we said, is on 24th of October now,
Yeah.
we were talking about motivation as being one of the kind of themes that we were looking at. Like, what's motivating you? Why are you here? Like, why are you coming? Like, why did you go to your first, official class in mediumship? Why did I go? What was, like, I feel like I was kind of pushed into it, honestly. I didn't consciously sit down and say, "Oh, I must definitely learn about mediumship." I did not. I never did that. Like, I never had that intent. I got lured in by the word awakened mind because I'm really interested in higher states of consciousness. So that got me in. And then I wanted to pull out when I realized that it was a mediumship course, but something was in me saying, just stay here now, just stick it out. So, like, I believe the same with Spirit Cafe. Whoever is drawn to join us on the 24th will just find their way in once we produce a doorway or access through the website, and you can sign in. And, that's what I think will be a very interesting kind of session, talking about motivation, and then talking about having kind of very clear boundaries within ourselves, in terms of like what's our overall, like, my intention is to help and to serve. I have a basis in yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda, and that's what I'm really interested in. How would you say your background is, Ramzi?
Mine is energy healing.
Energy healing, yeah.
Yeah, with energy healing. The thing is, even myself, when we did the course together, I don't know what got into me, and I registered for me to get up at 3 a.m. to do a session
Yeah.
every month. It was, and I remember our teacher said, "I don't think you're going to continue. It's like really early," and I did it for 2 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Nothing could have
they guide
stopped you.
you.
Yeah.
No, no, no. They
It's
guide
for
us.
you. And that's why
Yeah,
I don't worry about Spirit Cafe anymore. I'm not the force behind it, nor are you,
none of
or can
us.
you. The three of us, we're space holders. Like, we're willing to kind of, help kind of format it in terms of like getting the technology going in the right direction. But
Yeah,
it's not one of us or three of us. It's something way more than that. And I think,
yeah,
with a kind of clear conscience and a good heart, and that's all the motivation you need to see where or who wants to connect with us next, So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to our next session because we've really been building something. I'm always
Yeah,
flabbergasted by the quality of the information that people are tapping into.
and the healing that comes out of it every time,
Absolutely.
every time. And it's funny. We although we're running out of time, back, we're so engaged in this conversation. Even if we don't plan it, it plans itself,
Yeah,
and it guides us to the right spot where something comes up every session.
it does.
Love it. Yeah,
It does. But yeah, it says Instagram has disconnected the
yeah.
stream. There we go. But yeah, it's been great chatting. I've really enjoyed not having a guest actually. It's been nice just to really recap and kind of regroup and go back into the, slow down and
Mhm.
trust, really slow down, trust and enjoy the journey. We're on an incredible journey on an incredible planet at an incredible time. What more could you ask for?
Yes, nothing. Not absolutely nothing. Just be present and be and slow down in order to enjoy every moment of it. And by the way, we still have a couple of open mic UK before the end of the year. We have an astrologer. Emma's coming on the 31st of October. Yes, the 31st of October. I'm trying to remember. November, we I don't think we have
19th?
anything. November?
Lahela, is it? Maybe from Australia, from Hawaii?
Yes. Lahela is coming on the 19th from Hawaii. On the 14th, we're trying to get somebody in. On the 28th, we will be in London. And actually, we will be getting interviewed for a podcast by Paul Bannister, who was with us last time. So interesting times. It's going to be awesome, awesome open mic UK. Not even a year running, and we've had great
Yeah.
people joining in with us. Well, I don't
Yeah.
want
I
to
just
keep
want to
everybody there. Yeah, go ahead.
mention one last thing that I did get one cancellation on Journey to Avalon. So we do have one space if anybody wants to
Oh,
come. Yeah. So I know we said earlier it is sold out, but somebody cancelled. So we do have a space actually
okay, for one person.
for one. And one of those rooms could be made into enough for two. So actually, technically, two. We have a room which can be either for a single or a double sharing. So yeah, we have one or you and a friend can come along. So
Where
yeah,
can they find the information? I don't remember putting it. Is it still on Spirit Cafe?
yeah, it's on the website.
Okay,
Can't
so you
miss
can
it.
check it out on spiritcafe.ca. And would like to
Yeah,
thank
and
everyone who
all they
joined
have to
us
do
today.
is just
Yeah.
register your. You can't register for the event on Spirit Cafe, but you can register your interest, and then we'll get back onto you because we want to make it that whether they're coming from the Ireland or the UK or EU or whether Canada or America that they can pay in their own currency. I think that's why we didn't kind of put an order availability on the website, but anybody can register their interest, and there is a room going free.
Okay.
All righty, cool.
All right. Well, thank you all for being with us. Susie, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all in 2 weeks' time with Lahela. Take
Yay.
care. And yeah, let me show how to do this. Sorry.